Yeah, this drone stuff's getting a little crazy, right? So we have here. If you're enjoying any of this content, please consider hitting the like, share, and the subscribe button. Would deeply appreciate it. Um, so I have a post by Dusty here on Twitter, now known as X. Shout out to Elon Musk. Watch go says John Ferguson, president slash chairman of the board at Saxon Aerospace LLC, gives his take on the U.S. drone situation unfolding. In the video clip one, John goes over a conversation that he had, who attempted, uh, that he had, who attempted to raise alarm with our government. John then brings up a prior drone spotting just a few years ago with a similar incident, CBS News in Colorado. John then goes into a bit of why the drones would be flying at night. In the second video, John covers how these U.S. drones possibly possibly haven't risen a lot of suspicion or concern with our government, officials, because they generally comply with FAA regulations, which I was going to say too. Through all the stuff that you're seeing with those lights, if you look at a regular commercial airliner, or like regular aircraft, I don't know the percentage, but I think a good majority of those aircraft that you're seeing up there, they have a green and red light. And a green, it's usually like, I don't know how they switch it up. I think it's like the green. Like we could look it up, but just for you folks, like for you folks to do your own due diligence, if you look this up, or if you go outside and look at an actual real plane flying over, they have green and red lights. Those green and red lights are within the FAA regulations. The FAA regulated these folks to say, hey, you need those to let other aircraft know that you're in the area so you don't fly into each other. That's why they have lights on like buildings and towers and stuff like that. So and like the certain like power lines or whatever, so people know that are like flying these aircraft, drones or unmanned or whatever, that they don't fly into this stuff. And you're seeing with these videos that these people have the green and red lights. That means that's not an enemy. An enemy wouldn't abide by FAA regulations, right? Like they wouldn't care about that. They would just they would turn all that stuff off and they would roll up and then, do what they need to do. Um, you know, it's very interesting. John Ferguson then goes over how these drones are able to possibly go to a distance based off of how their communications are set up, which is very interesting. I think based off of what he was saying is like the drones get together with a bunch of other drones together and they form a network that they can survive off of without being on their main network. They can set up their own network, and as long as they're within a certain distance, they can maneuver and do all. It's fascinating stuff, man. It's fascinating stuff. I can't believe that like drone technology has gotten to where it is now, because I mean I can, because just the ingenuity of these engineers out here, out of humans, out of mankind, is just astounding. But I digress. We go back into this. John Ferguson, I kind of just wanted to just go over the lights thing. John Ferguson then goes over how way these drones are able to, or it's supposed to be how the way these drones are able to possibly go to a distance based off of how their communications are set up. Finally, in this very last clip, John shows the thermal imaging from one of his drones and also shows the view of what drones are seeing. At the end of the video, John covers a few exclusive points on the drones. While the drones are flying at night, the use of thermal imaging and how it's used, and excuse me, I have to pause and break. like normal, like like you're supposed to. And lastly, the communication of the drones, how they are wired or designed to go whatever distance. So we're not going to watch the whole thing. We're going to watch a little bit of the first part, and then we'll watch like tiny segments from these second and third parts, hopefully. Um, but yeah, shout out to John Ferguson. I'll leave the link for this, and shout out to Dusty. See what they have to
My name
say.
is John Ferguson. I'm the CEO of Saxon Aerospace here in Wichita, Kansas. I'm not normally a TikTok kind of a guy. I like watching this stuff every once in a while. But I'm a manufacturer of unmanned aircraft, military grade unmanned aircraft, as you can see one of my systems here. There's all of these mysterious drones going on off the East Coast, and as a professional, as a subject matter expert, I wanted to give you all my opinion on what I think could be going on with these drones. I don't particularly believe that these have a nefarious intent. I could be wrong, but I want to give you the truth and what I believe. It's my own opinion, and I've not bounced this off of anybody. So, if you think it's bullshit, whatever, that's cool. I don't want to spread misinformation, as we know that there's a lot of that going around. But anyway, back in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan had dismantled the nuclear program, and there were, with Russia, there were countless nuclear missiles that were disarmed and disposed of. Well, there were over 80, I believe. There were over 80 nuclear warheads that were in Ukraine that came up missing. Okay? We don't know where they are. Maybe somebody does, but nobody really knows where these are. And I speak with some pretty high-level government officials on this stuff, and it seems as though that is the case. So I spoke to a gentleman a few months ago who was trying to raise an alarm to the highest levels of our government, which they had their ears closed, about this one particular nuclear warhead that he physically put his hands on. He physically touched this warhead that was left over from Ukraine. And he knew that that thing was headed towards the United States. Okay? That is a very serious deal. And everyone knows that the United States government, this administration, is pushing to get into a war with Russia. We all know that. We all feel it. We all see it. Okay? Well, back up a few years. Do y'all remember when those drones were mysteriously flying across the Interstate 70 corridor from Colorado up into Nebraska, down here into Kansas, and out into Missouri? Well, it was believed that those drones were looking for radioactive material because there had been some material that came up missing here in the United States, and they felt like it was high probability that the nuclear or the radioactive material would be taken along the Interstate 70 corridor heading east or west or south. So, from what we understand, they were out there trying to find this radioactive material. Now, drones, they have no reason to be in the air at night unless you're doing some type of ISR work, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, looking for bad guys, or looking for a victim, a search and rescue victim, or law enforcement, or some type of military project, right? There's no reason for a drone to be flying at night, really, okay? Because they don't see shit. So, unless you have thermal optics, drones really don't see stuff. You need to do mapping during the day. If you're going to do farming stuff, you mostly do it during the day. The only reason why you would ever fly an aircraft, an unmanned aircraft at night, is if you're looking for something, whether it be a person or trying to smell gas. We have methane gas detection systems that can detect gas leaks in pipelines. You really wouldn't use thermal optics for trying to find gas leaks, just simply because the only way you're actually going to find a gas leak with thermal optics is if the gas leak is aggressive enough that it has a difference in temperature. Because thermal imaging, it creates a digital image based off of the temperature variance. So whatever is different in temperature, it creates an image. Usually gas leaks so slow that it goes quickly into ambient, before you can even see it. So we have special sensors that can detect gas leaks. We also have special sensors that can detect radioactive material. So with this gentleman that I had spoken with, who was trying to raise the alarm to try to get somebody in the government to say, hey, we need to work together to go try to find this nuclear warhead, none of that ever happened. They knew that warhead was on its way to the United States. That's all that ever came of it. Nothing ever happened. This government did not do anything at all to help this gentleman raise the alarm and raise awareness that there is a very deadly weapon on its way to the United States. It's out there. Nobody knows where it's at now. It left Europe. Now it's gone. So my own guess, is that these drones are not nefarious in intent. If they are, they are, but I doubt it. But if they are drones, the only reason why they would be flying and flying that
looking
low
for something, huh?
is because they're trying to smell something on the ground.
Interesting.
That's it. There's no other reason for a drone to be flying in the air other than to piss a bunch of people off at night. That's it. So, my belief is they're trying to smell something on the ground. Gas leaks, radioactive material, whatever. Picking up on...
I'm going to rain check on these two here. Shout out to John Ferguson. What he had just said something I was going to comment on. Them operating at nights. I mean, there was something that he just said it.
That there is.
Oh yeah. I don't really believe. I mean, I don't know. It's just I don't know. We don't have we don't have too much information, but I think this is kind of the right direction that folks do need to be realistically going into, like that mindset. Whether it's a for real operation or if it's like maybe they're training or whatever, but realistically, that sounds legit though. But I'm not saying that is what's going on. But I do want to say what he did bring up, I find fascinating, is that during the what did he say? Like the 80s was the dismantling of the Ukrainian nuclear like program or something like that, where they just disarmed and gave away their nukes, or the United States took it. Like there's a whole thing. Like I might have to do a video on that just because of this situation, because like that leads down a whole other rabbit hole. But that whole point is what he brought up is that if Ukraine was disarmed of these nukes, where did they go? And it sounds like a lot of them didn't go to where they needed to go. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy. I'm not trying to make up one, but like if you really put it all together, I mean, were they really disarmed? Who took them? When did they take them? And did they actually receive them? And if they didn't receive them, who has them? I mean, it's like these are all real questions here. Like real questions I have about this. Me personally, I don't really I don't really. I mean, it seems like everything that he's saying seems legit, but I don't know if that's what's going on right now with this. But I mean, that whole dismantling of the Ukrainian nuclear program, that leads me to believe, because there's a lot of shady people out there, like, and then the nuclear like armed race and everything like that, like, that happened so long ago. Like, these folks will do anything, man. Just this is just me rattling this stuff out. These folks will do anything to get their hands on it. And then if someone's over there saying, "Hey, you can't have it," I mean, the whole point of that is, did all of those make it to where they needed to go? And if they didn't, somebody has one of them, right? It would be kind of plausible, I guess, that like somebody would maybe sneak that in to the, like, that's what I'm thinking, right? So, but that's not the case.